All right. Hey, episode 38, Blaine Birch, Mike Milan, and Nobody Told Me with Mike and Blaine. And we're going to talk about the power of no. And that saying no can be one of your most powerful tactics. And Blaine, it's Cinco de Mayo. Do you know what that means?
May 5th. All I know is it's one day past Star Wars Day. Because I am a Star Wars nerd.
That's right. Hey, it's actually the day that the Mexican beat the French in a battle. Some people, claim it's Mexican Independence Day, but that's September 16th when they actually gained their independence from Spain. In any case, it's a fun day. It's a happy day. So let's do it. And we're on Wisdom. And if you're joining us on Wisdom, hey, and you want to talk about the power of no, join us right here. Just say that you want to join us. Click the button. We'll get you in there. And Blaine, what are you drinking today?
All right. Today, I have got from the Establishment Brewery in Calgary, so another not too far from home, Pattern of the Mind. And you can see the can is really cool. It's got these crisscross lines, and that's kind of how my brain feels today. It's been a long day, so it seems like, and it's a double IPA, actually delicious double IPA, so it was a good pick.
Now, it's kind of an abstract thing, and it's almost like a Jackson Pollock, right? Is that kind of about what it is? But it's black and white instead of multicolored.
Black and white, a little more geometrical, sort of Mondrian rather than Pollock. Not even quite Mondrian. Anyway.
All right. So I've got one here today. And I tell you, I picked it up because it was not only unique, but confusing.
All right.
The brewer is Lincoln Beer Company from Stevens Point, Wisconsin. Right. So they actually have some good beer up in Stevens Point, but this one is a Mexican craft lager from Wisconsin. And it's Danny Trejo Cerveza.
Nice. That's a good pick, man.
So it's a Mexican actor from California. Wisconsin beer, Mexican beer. So
nice.
Not only confusing, but unique.
So hopefully it tastes good after all that.
There you go. Hey, cheers. Happy Cinco de Mayo.
Happy Cinco de Mayo, yeah.
We're going to be talking about the power of no and saying no, how it can help you. What's really funny is that we had this kind of heated discussion. I'm going to bring it up just a little bit because what happened in the U.S. this week with the leaked document about abortions, there's increasing pressure on companies to take a side. I'm personally of the opinion, I think companies, if you're Kentucky Fried Chicken, just make good chicken. Right? I don't need to know your position on abortion. I don't need to know your position on whatever. You can do that through your lobbying efforts, through whatever else, but let's just do business together and try to keep our lives a little bit more civil. What's your take on all this?
Yeah, it sort of goes into the topic we were talking a little bit about last week, and it's such a tricky topic because the consumers seem to demand that companies take a stand, but is it fair to require a company to take a stand outside of their chicken that they really like? In a lot of ways, I agree with you. It's like, what is our business about? What do we care about? What is our mission? And we have to focus on that, right? Because there's a million different things out there, a million different topics and issues and everything else. And as individuals, that's the place where we can probably have our opinions in that. But I think it's harder on a business, and it's amazing because some people demand that a business do that, and others demand that they don't. And it's just like you said, I think last week, it's like you damned if you do, damned if you don't, right?
Yeah, that's right. So, anyway, I'm going to take a side with our little business here called Nobody Told Me with Mike and Blaine. And I'm going to say, I'm taking the side of small businesses. And if you don't have dry run as part of, your ability to run your business, to forecast out the future, I suggest you go to dryrun.com, check them out. That's our sponsor. And I'm appreciative of the CEO and the product, Blaine Birch.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And, yeah, we love, and that's the one thing I've said a million times. That's partly why we do this podcast, is because I love independent business. I love business owners. I know the fight and the challenge that they have to go through and how tough it is. And sometimes they have to say no.
Sometimes you have to say no. That's right. All right. So this came about when you mentioned this as a topic, right? You put it in kind of our random thoughts folder and all that. You're like, well, what about this? I immediately went to a book I picked up 2 years ago called The Year of Yes, right? I think it was Shonda Rhimes wrote this book and it was about what if I just say yes to things rather than always being, because some people's first instinct is to always say no. And when you're saying no, sometimes you feel like I'm shutting out opportunities without giving them a shot.
Yeah.
Well, we're saying the opposite today is, hey, no is not a bad thing. No could be one of your most powerful tactics. So what made you think of this? What made you introduce it?
Well, and like, I think I actually had the topic of why it's important to say yes to everything or something like that as well, because there is that argument. You don't want to miss opportunity. But I think, especially with entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs are like a squirrel, right? They start chasing. I know I'm like that. You start chasing this, that, and the other opportunity. But if you don't focus and you don't drive in one direction, you just end up treading water. And so that's where no can be one of the most powerful things. And I think maybe like you said, like if you're used to saying no, maybe say yes to some things. If you're used to saying yes to everything, maybe you want to say no to that. But on the topic of we're talking today, to be able to drive, to be focused, we've talked about even being in a niche, and so much success is about being an expert and focused and drive in a single direction. You have to be able to say no. You have to be able to take those distractions away at times to be successful.
All right. So, I mean, I want to get into talking about, as an individual, as an entrepreneur, as a small business owner, being able to say no. But let me go upstream to some of the bigger companies right now. Right before this, I was talking to Courtney, and, she works for a big retailer and she deals with some of the larger brands like Apple, like Nike, like, Herb Jones, Balfour. I mean, there's some bigger companies out there. And they've pushed themselves into a position, and I say push because they probably want to be there, of dictating terms, right? Which is they're really good at saying no, meaning that your business has to conform to theirs. If I want to sell Nike in a store, if I want to sell Apple in my store, I've got to conform and do all the things. Even Starbucks is that way.
Yeah.
I now have to change everything that I do in my business to them. So they've gotten into a position where no is comfortable and they don't care about the opportunity. They can actually pass on the opportunities. They're like going, we only do business one way. If you're not willing to do it that way, well, then we don't care. We don't want to do business with you.
Yeah.
I mean, is that the catbird seat? Is that where we're all trying to be at?
That's like, I see both sides. That business to have grown that big, they understand what works, what sells, like they know so much of what makes them successful. But in the end, are they just stomping on the little guy? Are they stomping on a bunch of potential partners? So I don't know if that's actually that enviable of a position. To me, I think where it's saying no is you've got your coffee shop and opportunity comes along and it's like, hey, maybe we can actually add like an oil change shop in the basement, right? Like, it's like opportunity, but is it inside that lane? Is it going to help your business move forward? And opportunity comes along all the time, but I think there's times where it's so powerful to be able to say no. Because entrepreneurs, a lot of times you get wired into feeling like you got to say yes. They want me to talk over here. Well, I better say yes. They want me to write this over here. I want to interview on here. Okay, well, got to be there. But boy, is it helping or hindering?
So when I've trained bankers, I always look at, like, first the life cycle of the company, right? And instead of, I think I've said this on the show before, instead of startup, growth, maturity, and decline, like the life stages of a company, I call them wonder, thunder, blunder, and under, right? Yep. And basically I focus on the blunder stage, and that's right after, you kind of get started and you're starting to get some traction, but there's two big things that can kill a company during this blunder phase, right? One is growing broke. And we've talked about outrunning, your resources, those type of things from an operational standpoint. But the other one that I focused on, and I told a story a while back about losing a couple $100,000 in a business, and I call that the sideshow venture. So part of what I train bankers and accountants and business owners to do now is, hey, listen, when you see that it's becoming a sideshow venture, which means it's not part of your core business, you might have to say no. And I'll give you a story. I had a friend, very successful in construction, right? And this was before 2008. Very successful, was putting up houses, like house. You know how it was before the bankers burnt the world down back then. But he and his wife loved this little bed and breakfast out on the San Juan Islands up near Seattle. And they would go there once a year. Well, it came up for sale. You got to realize this guy's in construction. He's used to bidding projects, materials and labor, managing a project from start to finish. It's totally different now when you go and say, I'm also going to run a bed and breakfast, which is a service-based business where you got to attract new clients. They come in for 1 to X number of nights and provide for them, right?
Yeah.
Well, first year they lost about $750,000.
Oh, geez.
Where do you think that money came from? Huh? Yeah, the construction business, right?
Oh.
Think about that.
I apologize for pausing there, but I was trying to figure out how the hell do you lose like 70 grand a month on a bed and breakfast? Like, what the hell are you doing? How can you even spend that? It's a house.
It's craziness, right? But it was, he lost the second year, he lost over $1 million. And he's funding it. Now he's taking the profits from the construction company and just forcing it to this thing, right? So he's hurting one business to fund the other. And I got in the same position when I was selling Recover. I was in hotel staffing. There's no reason I should be selling herbal supplements, herbal supplements from, these type of things. There's no way. So because of that, I think they kicked us off of Wisdom. I broke some code of conduct. I have a message from them 5 minutes ago. Your account was moderated due to a code of conduct violation for having prolonged silences during your talk. All right, so how about saying no to Wisdom?
That's just where I was going to go. I was like, hey, sometimes you have to say no. Just for anyone who just picked up, Wisdom bumped us off and said we had prolonged sections of silence or something, which if you guys were all listening, we didn't have any prolonged sections of silence. But I think this might be a good time to say no and go with the ones we trust: Apple, Spotify, everybody else.
Here's what I know is the universe talks to you in different ways, right? And this might be one of the ways it's talking to us, like going, it's not going to be for you. You guys probably shouldn't be on Wisdom. I mean, we could even try Clubhouse, see if we can do it differently on Clubhouse.
Yeah. You know what, like our what we have said yes to is, and before the show, Mike was pointing out, like we've had some pretty good, we won't share numbers. We've had some pretty bloody good downloads on Apple and I think Spotify this last week. And so I'm thinking, they're the ones who loves us. So maybe we'll go there and stay there.
Killing it on Apple right now. Did you see we're getting ready to hit? And I'll tell you, it's hard to do. We're getting ready to cross the 100 5-star review mark.
Yeah,
I can tell them that number because it's public.
Yeah, and you can go count. You can go on there and count, and maybe that's our next T-shirt is a 105 star review. Anyway,
100 people like me.
Yeah, exactly. A whole 100, three figures.
Do you remember that commercial? Where it was a guy, he's sitting in the car and he's got his phone. He goes, 100 likes. 100. It was like a cell phone commercial or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's all right. Okay, back on track.
Before Wisdom cut us off, I was talking about the construction worker that actually, and he owned a construction company, bought a bed and breakfast, lost close to 1.7 million before he sold the bed and breakfast. Yeah. But I was saying all the money was getting sucked out of the successful business to fund the loser.
To fund the loser, yeah.
To fund the loser. So I mean, if anybody should say no, it's like now I've got like a radar that goes off in my head. If I got a friend that comes to me and goes, hey, you know what? I'm going to get into the fiddle hopper business. My brain starts going, what do you know about fiddle hoppers, or how does it fit into what you're currently doing? And if I hadn't lost all that money myself in the herbal supplements company, I wouldn't feel the same way. I'm like, maybe you can make some money there. But now I'm like going, no, man, it's going to take up your time, your resources, your money, and all it's going to do is cause you a heartache.
Yeah. I think anything that's outside of our lane, I'm scared about. And the same thing when I talk with other entrepreneurs, like, we got an idea. I'm like, that's really different than the successful one you did before. Like, stick with what you know. Because it's like, man, any business I've been in, you know how hard it is after you've been going through it. You know how brutally hard it is. And everything else always looks easy from the outside. As soon as you're in it, you find out, that's why not everybody's doing this. It is hard. And some of those things where you're actually going to risk one business and put money from one business into another, that should probably be a hard no, unless you really understand the business, or you've got so much bloody money, you can hire the best people in the world that understand that business, which for a small business is pretty much never.
Yeah, you're right. So, well, I can tell you that when people start to see that you get success, right? They start to see, like, if all of a sudden people, or they probably notice it now at Dry Run, you're starting to move up, you're starting to do things differently, you can just see that you're being successful. It's almost like you got the Midas touch, right? Everybody comes to you with an idea. Like, hey, if you're good at this, you should try that, or we should partner on this and that. I mean, I probably did it to you. I'm like, hey, you should partner with me on, truly financial thing. So, but it's one of those things. If it's a good fit, yes. If he can't make the fit, if you can't make the connection, I think you have to say no.
Then you have to say no. Yeah, you have to be able to walk away. And both of us, we've been in business for over 20 some years. 25 years over, like, we have 50 years combined. That's typical. There's a lot of times that I said yes to things in retrospect I probably shouldn't have, and that's how you learn that no, you got to be able to say no. And something has to, like, it has to pass the acid test, I think, to be able to go, yes, I'm going to say yes. I think the natural thing is not to just dive in, is to make any of these ideas go through a process where you determine if it's actually going to help your business move forward. Because boy, some of the ones that don't work, they're monumental failures. I'll be honest with you, man. I still can't, first of all, figure out how a bed and breakfast would lose 1.7 million, and then he was able to sell it. Just to me, it blows me away. Who bought it?
I wouldn't say sell it. I'd say he lost even more money on the sale.
Oh, it's probably like $1.
I think he gave it away. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where he had to. It was just draining him.
Yeah.
You know what's funny though, and that happened early 2000s, and I ran across him again in like 2014, 15, and he was thinking about buying a winery. When do people learn a lesson?
Like, that's like me buying a brewery. Like, I really like beer, but I do not know anything about running a brewery. Like, that would just scare the living shit out of me. So I don't get it. I don't know enough about it. Right. And liking something or being passionate about something is not a reason. That's not going to do it.
The close relationship I want with beer right now is what you and I do. Right.
Exactly.
Bring a beer onto the show. We drink it while we're at work.
Yeah. And hopefully someone will buy us one, and then we can buy some bought beer. Don't say no to that. That's not something we want you to say no to. It's buying us a beer.
I guess I only take half our advice, but speaking of, it's episode 38. How many beers have we had bought for us?
It's a big goose egg right now.
That means zero, right? The goose egg means zero in Canada.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. We have some terms like goose egg is a zero.
Yeah, I'm messing with you.
If you're golfing and you get an 8 as a snowman. I don't know if you have that down there either.
That's exactly what I call it. Yeah. I was like going a little chilly up there today. All these snowmen.
Yeah.
But it's so funny, right? Because it's a zero. I would have never thought in a million years that we couldn't get one person to go to mikeandblaine.com and do the buy us a beer.
Yeah, we got 100 reviews, but no one wants to buy us a beer. How about 99 reviews and one beer buyer?
There's something wrong with that. Because all you do is press buy us a beer. It's $5. 5. We're not getting rich on this thing. Now it's about our pride. We're like going, we can't get one person to buy us a beer. Seriously.
Yeah. And you know what? The fact is it'll probably buy a portion of a beer because unless you pick the beer, I'll probably go buy something fancy.
Well, and that's true. We said if they did it, they could pick the beer. We go buy it, and we'd even mention them on the show. It was from, well, fill in the blank with your name.
Yeah, exactly. So we want you to say no to not buying us a beer.
That's right. Say no.
Say
Or
no.
don't say no. Now I'm confused. So,
say no to not buying us a beer. It's I know it's a double negative. That's 2 no's in a row.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Don't say no.
Don't say no to buying us a beer, or say no to not buying us a beer.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So have you ever been in the position where you wished you would have said no?
Oh man. Okay, I couldn't count them on both hands because I'd run out I'd have to start getting into toes. Of course. Yeah. Like any business person is, I'm sure done that a million times. And if I look back over my career now, the thing is that almost every one of them you learn from. Like you learn, it's like, I shouldn't have done that. So you're better prepared for the next time, but boy, they're expensive learnings, and as entrepreneurs, like you said, you've lost a couple $100,000 on one thing. Add up over the last 25 years. Same thing I can do. I can add up the last 25 years and probably go, we're in 6 figures easily, if not tipping close to 7 with stupid things that I said yes to, right? Like it because things that just didn't work out outside of learning from them from a business perspective didn't work.
You know what? And this is a lesson that almost all of us know, right? If you've ever bought a car, you learn how to say no, right? Like going, I say no until he chases me out, out of the spot, and then he'll bring me back in and we'll say yes. But I don't know why that doesn't carry over. I don't know why. Sometimes it's, let's talk about that. Why are you afraid to say no?
Yeah. I think as an entrepreneur, you don't, like we've talked about, you don't want to miss an opportunity, right? And as an entrepreneur, I think early on as an entrepreneur, especially, you probably said, I said yes probably too many times because I don't want to miss opportunity, but also I kind of want to be liked as an entrepreneur. It's like I want people to buy from me. I want to be involved. I want to be out there. I want people to know me. I want and I tell you right now, it's at my age, it's a lot easier because I think my first reaction is like, yeah, fuck off. Like that's my first reaction to almost everything. And then I got to think about it, go, okay, maybe I was a little harsh on that. And that's because I've done stupid things in the past that have cost an incredible amount of money and taken a whole pile of time and loaded a whole pile of stress on, and they didn't work. And you learn from it, but a lot of times I feel like I should have known that. I should have known better, right?
Well, you know what's funny about that is I've got the issue where I want to make the deal. I want to make it work somehow. How can we make it work? That's my first thing is how can I make this? Because I don't enter into the conversation unless I can see something like maybe, right? Maybe there's something there. And then I'll negotiate. And because I'm in partnerships right now, it's negotiating every partner a little bit differently.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to make the deal. Right. So it's, that's
yeah, but that's a little different. Like I have that in my mind too all the time but this is when it's a fit that I'm coming up with then you want to make the deal. Then like I'll negotiate on anything. It's probably embarrassing at times for people like my wife, my staff. I don't like my staff like do anything without, yeah, squeeze them a bit. We're a startup, squeeze them a bit. But that's when it's something good for you. I think when you're saying no, it's something that it's like, it's a bit of a stretch, right? Like, so if it was a partnership that you didn't feel good about, would you walk away when you go, it's like, this is not a good partnership? Like,
Yeah, I mean, even at Finnegraph, we didn't have good product market fit, and we struggled and just tried to make it fit. It's a square hole, round peg, round peg.
Yeah.
And if we would have just said no faster, know that, yeah, it's not a good fit. Let's not spend marketing dollars and time chasing
Yeah.
down the project. We could have pivoted the product sooner and probably saved a ton more than that couple 100,000 that
Yeah.
I spent on my own mistake.
Yeah. No, and it's it's hard because there's logic and then there's gut, right? That's what I feel sometimes is like, well, logically this seems to make sense, but my gut tells me. And a lot of times I'll trust my gut on that and hope that I'm right. Um, but there's times where the logic doesn't quite line up, or maybe the gut does a little bit, or the personalities jive, but the logic doesn't make sense. So there's lots of reasons to say no. It's not like everything has to be perfectly lined up in a line, but um, man, there's times that it costs the business time, money, energy, just distraction, and it's frustrating and all of this. Um, yeah, I don't, it's, if you ask me, what is the default for a business? Should your default be yes, and then you try and talk yourself out of it if it's not right? Or should your default be no and talk yourself into it if it is right?
I I think you're open to information, but your default is no.
Yeah, I kind of lean that way too. Like, and
Right?
I think 20 years ago, I probably would lean the other way. Today, I think I lean the same way. As like my default is no. And before I say it out loud, let's work our way through and see if it actually makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I have to be convinced that it's right. Whereas again, I think earlier on in my career, the same way. Mine was, it's all yes. I can't afford to say no. Right.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And then you find out, no, you can't afford to say yes, is what
That's right.
happens.
That's right. That's exactly right. So I mean, because and it's a personal life too, right? In your personal life, you do that. I mean, I have you done anything but cryptocurrency?
Besides buy a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, I've done that. All right, so I've got a friend that just built a bunch of NFTs, and he's like, "I'll give you one." I'm like, going, to do what? What am I
Okay,
doing?
I draw the line a little bit at NFTs. I those are ones I've been saying no to so far.
Well, I've said no because I've looked at him and I'm like going, what the hell is it? What do I do with a picture of a monkey in a space helmet?
Yeah, exactly.
Who's buying that? And why is it valuable?
Yeah, I haven't wrapped my head around that. With crypto, I had like I own I couldn't tell you 7 or 8 different currencies, and but I have I have my own way of what do I say yes to and what do I say no to. Now, don't ask me if it makes any sense, because 10 years down the road, I might have went, I should have said yes to all these and no to all those. But
Actually, let me ask you something personally, and I'll say mine first, so you don't feel bad. Uh, I, I generally don't waste money, right? I don't buy a lot of things, right? I don't have materialistic like that. But if you give me an experience, I'll throw all kinds of money at it, right? So if
yeah,
I'm going to waste money, it's going to be on oh, what do you mean? I can do blah, something I'll never be in the in a position to do again, like sing on the stage at the Grand Ole Opry. Now the place was empty, but I got to stand on the stage, stand in the circle, and sing. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Yeah, it was a VIP ticket to go do that, and I get the tour behind stage and all that. Yeah, I'm going to do that.
that's awesome. Yeah.
A VIP experience with Carrot Top. I paid for that. Guess how many people were in the VIP experience with Carrot Top? 2, me and Courtney. Right. But the show was sold out. And it was like $50 extra. You got to spend a half hour, having a drink and talking to Carrot Top. Well, usually if there's 10, 12 people in there, he's got to share his time. It gets awkward if it's just me and you. Me and you talking. So, but it's experiences that I'm like going, I'd rather be able to tell a story. I did this or that versus I have this new coat or this new pair of shoes.
Yeah. I'm I don't like a little bit same way, maybe not as much with like events experience, although like, man, if I can get to a race, I'm going to go to like it, like I love that stuff. But the stuff that I like spending our like money on is when I get to do stuff. So I have a hell of a, and I just had to replace a bunch of appliances in our southern place, and now they're acting up here, and I'm like, oh, that's what happens when you have 20-year-old houses like this. Like everything goes at the same time. That stuff drives me nuts. Like a chair or a couch drives me nuts. But I got an electric skateboard that's on the way, supposed to be delivered next week, and like stuff where I can do stuff like all like my tools in the garage where I get to build shit and stuff. Like I love that because it lets me do something. And so I guess that would be leaning towards an experience. So like the electric bikes and skateboards, because we use them, but like something that just sits and does, like, it's just sort of there. Man, I hate spending money on that stuff. I like it. It's like, I just can't stand it.
Well, here's the thing. All right. So I watched 13 seasons of Hoarders. Right. So that's one of the reasons why I have this new rule in the house: one in, one out. So if I get a new shirt, I gotta get rid of an old shirt. Right? Yep. And it just kind of keeps things in balance. But yeah, I'm finding myself more and more saying no to I just don't need it. You know, it's okay. I don't need a new pair of pants. I don't need this, that, and the other. I've got things that are good enough. So I think in my life, I've gotten really good at saying no.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I've gotten much not much better at it. I've flipped a switch from younger saying yes to everything to my default now is no. And I think that serves me well, but it's not like a hard no dismiss. The default is no, but I can be convinced. We can debate it. You know, like we can look and say, okay, does this actually make sense? But then on the other side, there's things that I know, like, well, I'll say yes to, and like all the time, right? And like you said, like it's experiences and doing stuff, and like that's the stuff that I really value as well. It's being able to do something that means a lot, right?
Yeah. So it's funny. I'm gonna see if I can't pull it up one of these days. I'll show you if I can't show you here. My oldest daughter, Brett, she sent me a meme, not too long ago. And it described my transition from always no to mostly yes. Now you got to realize, I mean, she's the daughter, and she had, she has daughters now. So I'm a grandpa. So she sent me a meme of Damon Wayans, right?
Yeah.
And she goes, "This is my dad when I was a kid." And this Damon Wayans is Major Payne, right? He's got the Marine Corps drill sergeant hat on there. He's like, laying down the law, all rules, all everything. And then she says, "This is my dad with my daughters." Right? So me as a grandpa. And it's like goofy Dwayne, Damon Wayans being funny and goofy and always saying yes. So it's like going, I could see the transition from no when I was a parent to yes as a grandpa.
Okay. I get what you're saying there. I can't really relate, no kids, but I can see that.
It's easy to say yes. I mean, sometimes I do it on purpose just to annoy my daughters. Like, you would have never let me do that. I'm like, I know, but they can do it now because you have to deal with the consequences. What do you mean? They love all this sugar. We have to give them all this candy. I mean, it's the same thing my grandparents did to me.
Yeah, no, we've been uncles and aunts, and that's all we just like, that's yes to everything. Like, want that? Sure. Want that? Here's a toy that is super loud.
Okay, so you have a saying, right? And we talked about it right before this about hire slow, fire fast, right? Yep. And
that's obviously not my saying. It's just that's a really common one, but it's one that over the years, it's like you kind of learn to go, yeah, that's actually a pretty good saying, right? Like that makes sense.
Well, and what you're really talking about is, be careful and deliberate with your hiring decisions because of all the impact it could have on your culture, your work environment, your business, all those type of things. Yeah. But making that quick decision to say, nope, you're not a good fit. That's where I was going to with that was, hey, that's ultimately saying no to somebody. It's not a good fit. This isn't working. I've got to say no to you moving forward. So, what are some things you think happen if you don't say no? Why?
almost every yes takes up time. That there's almost guaranteed anything you say yes to is going to take up time, and then probably money, and then um probably like a distraction and everything else. But the one thing that almost always happens is when you say yes to something, it's going to take up a bunch of time, and you have to look at, do you have the time for that? So does it fit into what you're doing?
Yeah. And I would agree with that, right? Because I mean, it goes back to that. We're learning the same lessons. And I'll just tell you what I've learned today is that we're learning the same lessons. I mean, saying yes at the wrong time to the wrong thing about the wrong person takes your money, your time, your resources, and ultimately causes you stress in your life, right?
Yeah,
Especially
exactly.
so putting no in your pocket, having that as a tool, saying it's okay to use this. It's okay to show people I have a no button.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's one of the things I've learned is that it's okay to say no.
Yeah, and honestly, I think for like, I think you have to understand how you're wired a little bit. If you say no, like, and it's like that's your first thing, and you never seem to get to like do things, yeah, you might want to default to yes, and then if it justifies it, say no. But I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people probably listening to us that are entrepreneurs, a lot of times we're hardwired to say yes to anything because it's an opportunity. And I think default no. Now let me see if it makes sense. I think is a good a good policy to take, because you and I both know we've learned some really hard lessons. Now the lessons are valuable, but probably not the amount of money and pain that they brought.
Yeah. Hey, Blaine Birch from our sponsor, Dry Run. I appreciate you being with us today, our sponsor and my partner in Nobody Told Me with Mike and Blaine. So tell us about Dry Run, and then we'll kind of wrap this up.
Yeah, no, thanks, Mike. Yeah, Dry Run financial modeling, cash management software, get you out of a spreadsheet. If you're spending hours a week as a CFO, CPA, or even a business owner that is trying to figure out where you're headed, what your future looks like, what's going to happen with your money and your sales pipeline, come and talk with us at Dry Run, because we'll save you an incredible amount of time. And we're going to help you understand where you're headed. Easy, fast, clear. Dryrun.com. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate that.
All right, man. Hey, and I'll tell you what, you've been listening to episode 38, which I will always remember. And I'm going to assume the best and say, you know what, Wisdom couldn't pick up your microphone this week and thought that we had a lot of silence. And I'm going to assume it's more of a technical glitch than it is we broke a code of conduct, because there's no topic that we touched on that I think anybody could take offense with. So I think it was more technical than ideological.
Exactly. But we may be saying no to Wisdom in the future. So we'll see.
Yeah, you're not going to cut me off in the middle sentence again.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, man. Well, we'll see you next week. Another great topic on hand. If you haven't done so already, go to mikeandblaine.com. Also, hey, be the first one to buy us a beer. We're going to really celebrate when that happens. So, Blaine, we'll see you.
Exactly. All right. Have a good one, man. We'll see you next week.